And so my interest for the board is actually to keep connected with the city, to make sure that we are actively being involved and wanting things to change and see them evolve. And so that is the reason why I don't live in the city. I live in a township, but I've always worked in the city. So my passion is to make sure that downtown Benton Harbor have all opportunities that we have across the bridge. So that is the reason why I would like to continue my position as treasurer for the board.
I don't have any questions, but I definitely want to thank you for wanting to serve.
Thank you. Thank you.
This committee. Good afternoon, or good evening, rather. What I want to say, I am a lifelong resident of Benton Harbor. And oftentimes, we can sit from the outside looking in and say what we should and we ought to do. But it's a time to be called into action to support forward movement, in which I see that the city is making forward movement. And so I feel it needs to be supported as much as possible, and I would like to do that. No.
Could we hear a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I am a case manager at Berrien County Health Department for pregnant and parenting teens and young adults under the age of 21. Before that role, I was the director of the domestic violence shelter that's on Riverview for the domestic violence. I have always did social work, so I have always worked in some capacity of helping people in marginalized populations in that aspect. And, yeah, I've just been here my whole life. Grew up in Benton Harbor on Superior Street and raised my children here. I have 5 sons and 15 grandchildren. So that's it.
You're vested. With that many kids and grandkids, you're vested.
Yes.
Forgot. I don't have any questions, but I definitely see that you want to learn, and that's kind of what it's all about. Learning, keeping an open mind. So I think that although you don't have experience in necessarily government, but I think that, coming in with an open mind, willing to learn, I think you'll do great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those sentiments, and yes, we appreciate you signing up, because it is, like you said, it's one thing sitting on the other side and another thing sitting on this side, so I appreciate that and look forward to you serving on this committee. You'll be the resident on this committee, so there'll be 3 of us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll move, we have to move this to the full commission, so at our next commission meeting, we'll vote on these appointments.
Okay.
All righty. The next item on the agenda is new business, the approval of the disallowance of carrying weapons in our city, of City of Benton Harbor buildings, facilities, and grounds. Do you have that ordinance, or was it the public safety?
Actually, I drafted it and sent it out so that everybody could begin to, oh, sorry. I drafted it and sent it out so that everyone could review it and begin to give input if they felt or thought anything needed to be added or was problematic or whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter if it goes immediately to the commissioner tonight, but just to start the review and discussion and so forth. It's something that I certainly feel we need to do, and to do it soon. That we disallow all weapons, knives, guns, whatever, on in city buildings and facilities and property.
Because in county buildings and all of that, school buildings, people are not accountable. So this is not an unusual legislative measure. So I think, like you said, it provides a level of safety and security for residents and for staff from people coming inside the building. So I am 100% in agreement with that. Leave it in your car. There's no reason to bring a weapon into the city hall's chambers, so.
So from a concealed carry permit, we would just be pretty much looking at the honor system, correct? Because we wouldn't really have a way of telling if someone has a concealed carry permit if they're bringing their weapon, correct?
You may and may not. Some of them are large enough that they'll show. We could get to a situation where one day we might want to put screening devices and whatnot to do so. So how we enforce it would be up to us.
Signage probably is gonna be necessary, because I know, like, most places, it'll have something listed, about
Absolutely.
bringing weapons and stuff in the building.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Henry?
CW, or the concealed weapons don't allow you to come into a public place like this with a weapon. So they know not to do that. And if we're just trying to emphasize that we don't like it, everybody knows that. And if they're gonna do something, they don't care anyway. So, I mean, we just keep doing things that has no positive anything to it. So when we just tell people, no, you can't bring in your weapons in here. Well, at one time, we used to have a machine that you had to walk through. That didn't work out too well. So if we just wanna do something to be doing something, we could do this.
If I might, respectfully, I understand exactly what you're saying, but it is a little bit more than that. It's similar to having a speed limit sign that says speed limit 70. People go by it all day doing 80, but when they get caught, it's that sign and the action that was behind that sign that provides the power for enforcement. If you don't have anything, then you haven't broken any law because you don't know.
Okay, I can understand that if somebody presented a weapon, what, a pocket knife? What, a gun? What? And if.
In any of that.
And they walk past the sign that said, no weapons allowed, then they're in trouble.
Exactly, just like getting on a plane. When they say no weapons allowed, that's what they mean. And a person may get by TSA, but when they get found with it, full force of the law goes against it.
Are we
This-
including pocket knives?
Yeah, it's any weapon. It's the same thing in the school. Like when you're going through the metal detector, any weapons that you have in your pocket, you have to remove them. You should not be bringing any weapons into a public civic place. Schools, churches, even churches have this same kind of thing. So I don't think it's unusual. I don't think it's something that is something that we need to implement, because people come into these buildings and you don't know what they have in their pockets. And so, like you said, if we don't have anything on the books, you can't enforce anything. And the hope is for agreement so that you don't have to do enforcement. Like schools, people know you can't bring a weapon into a school building because something will happen. So hopefully people will agree and say, hey, we won't do this. But if you don't have anything or they don't know, then
How do we enforce you enforce it?
By the first time someone is in the building and found to have a weapon, they get arrested and charged with violation.
So if somebody shows you their weapon, but if I got a concealed weapon on me, how would you know? How would you enforce what you talking about?
Like you said, when you go through a concealed weapons
No.
class, no, you know,
But if I
no, but I'm saying, the only reason you supposed to, the only people who are supposed to have a concealed weapon are people who have a license to carry those guns, so everybody else is illegal anyway. Once you get inside your car with your gun and you don't have a permit, it's considered concealed. And so if the police stop you with your weapon without a concealed weapons permit, you are violating the law. And people know that.
But how will we enforce it when someone comes in here with a concealed weapon in their pocket?
Now this, if I might, now this may sound silly, but I'm gonna tell you how it actually occurs. Some character with one in their pocket drops it and it falls on his foot and shoots up in the ceiling. He's caught. Somebody else gets mad and stands up and demonstrates that they've got one some way or another, pull their coat back and it gets seen, or sits in a chair or something and it gets hooked or whatever. Those things do actually occur like that. And when they do, or for that matter, cousin somebody who gets mad and says, he got a weapon. That happens.
Of course. So I'm just making sure that we're not, going to have to police everyone that comes in here for a weapon. Or that we will, if this resolution is passed, I wanna know what the enforcement, what will police do if I'm hiding a gun?
I think in fairness, I answered that question. All right, as long as we don't have a problem, it's not an issue. We start having a problem, we may very well put a magnometer on the door for people to catch people coming in with the thing going off. If we need that, then we go there. But if we don't have to worry about it.
Well, I know when the city had the other one, they were making some real radical changes and the citizens didn't like it. So that is why you brought that, metal detector in. It didn't work well. Now, is there a reason why we're standing on guard now? That's just me. I'm through with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, because I can point to the recent shootings that's been happening at Benton Harbor High School over the last 3 or 4 weeks, where our young people are using these guns that they getting at home, taking them into the school and doing other things. So that's just one reason why we can help protect our residents and our students and our people in our community. This is another avenue to do so. But I think once we put up signage and stuff like that, no weapons beyond this point, people will get the message. And again, getting agreement for people to not do that is a preventative measure. The sign is there, don't do it. And I think we will.
Gotcha.
Is there any more comments or anything on this particular item? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Why don't we just get a detector? We got everything else we need. We got cameras, so if somebody come in here with a gun, I mean, they're gonna be, it's not like they're gonna not be seen. But if we got a metal detector, if we that concerned like they were back then, why not just get a metal detector and put it on the door? That way we all safe. I don't feel so safe just because the police is the only one in here with a gun. I wouldn't mind if Commissioner had one in his pocket over there, you know? I'm just saying, just for our safety. I'm done with it. You gotta do what you wanna do.
Thank you.
If I might suggest, I believe we have another committee meeting before the upcoming commission. why not we pass it over and get comments from that committee also
Yeah,
before
public
we do?
safety. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because generally, I would say in response to what Mr. Duncan was saying, if we have a situation where it gets to where it's necessary, then I think that's what we would do. But otherwise, what we really want to try and do is give the average citizen the feeling that I can come in here and feel reasonably safe because they don't allow weapons of any type.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, and I'll move to put this item on, move it to public safety. The next item is approval of selection of architectural firm to provide design, engineering, construction services for the Bobo Brazil Center. City manager, is this your item too?
This one, we're really running a little late with. This is for implementation of the Department of Labor Leo grant for $1 million that we received for the Bobo Brazil Center. The first step that we're required to make on that is to go through a public process of either bidding or asking for requests for qualification, which we have done, and a committee of us reviewed. We received 2 responses, Avon Marsh and one other, I believe JKP, I believe, or something like that. But we, all 4 of us, went through and rated separately the components that we were looking for on this, and unanimously agreed to recommend Avon Marsh, and would like to ask the committee to forward this to the commission for action. We're required, once they are selected, for them to prepare bid specifications. We have to have at least one firm under contract for actually doing some of the work by December 30. And this will afford us the opportunity to do that.
Push your button.
So the $1 million grant that we received, some of the work has to be started on it before December 30th. So, under contract. Okay. How much was the project, or is that, because they bid it out, so they looked at the building, I'm assuming, and they made a bid based on the work that needed to be done. So, do you have a list of?
They didn't actually, but they did send a proposal for what they're going to do, and I have failed to attach it. But it basically, that's what they are doing, is looking at the building, the work that has to be done, developing specifications to begin to address it. I had specifically requested that the initial steps out of the first $1 million that we had should minimally stop infiltration into the building by repairing the roof where it's leaking, replacing the windows that have been broken and windows period with insulated glass so it could hold down on the heating bill and so forth, and then go through cleaning up and all that kind of stuff. Because this is really, the whole $1 million is really just an initial step. We figure it's probably going to cost somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million to get it to where we really want to get it. And we'll be pursuing other funding to do the actual construction.
So I was able to be on this committee, and it was very thorough. There were about 7 categories that we looked at to compare both applicants. And as Mr. Little stated, Abingmark did have the higher score. And it just makes sense to, work on the roof and do things that will prevent further damage right away. So I think it's a good call and definitely should be passed.
It is gonna, so the initial demolition will cost the entire $1 million just based on the roof, the windows, the insulation, the cleaning, the first steps of that, and then there'll be an additional cost to finishing up, you said $3 to $4 million.
Even those items may not take up the full amount. They'll continue to work with and set up, processes for the contractors to do as much as we have, because in each case, it's gonna depend on how much the bids come in for and what it costs. And when that's finished, if there's money left, we go on to the next step until we've used it up. But we know there's gonna be a lot more that's gonna be needed in order to really get it done.
I know at one point, we had discussed insurances and matching grants and that kind of stuff for this particular project. Where does that stand and what does that look like?
Unfortunately, insurance kind of spun out on us in terms of them paying anything because it went too long without being reported that there was damage and so forth. We are looking at and pursuing additional grants and resources to try to continue with the additional work that's needed.
But that building is still covered under insurance though, correct?
We have insurance on it now, but the problem that we've had in the past is that the Armory, 200 Paw Paw, number of these places, there was damage done that everybody knew about, but nobody filed a claim or did anything. And I got in there, I started looking at those and trying to file claims against these things, and they approved a claim to repair the roof that blew off out here at Union Park, but they've denied the claim for Armory. They've denied the claim for 200 Paw Paw. And I'm still fighting with them over a claim for the damage that was done to the basketball courts up there. So we got our hands full, but our processes now are corrected to where if we have damage or anything like that, we're going to report it immediately and have the insurance cover it. The other thing we're going to also try to do is get some cameras in place on some of these facilities so that we can monitor and watch our resources and not have people damage them.
So with the Armory, is that, will you include something like that as, in this project, maybe buy a camera or two or something to put in there once that work begins, so we're not working backwards?
I've tried that and nobody wants to fund money for cameras. I've asked the police department because that may be one exception that if they're able to pursue some of the law enforcement grants for it. But I've also identified some cameras that are not extremely costly, a couple of $100 each, that I'm going to try and acquire some just through our regular general fund resources. But it's worth it for us to take these steps in order to be able to stop the vandalism and damage to our facilities.
Thank you. Is there any more questions or comments? Does anybody have, Commissioner Henry?
I would like to know how much Abingmark is going to get paid for this first leg of this project.
It's actually specified in the proposal. I think it's $154,000, I believe, is the amount.
Is that just for this first leg of it?
That's for the first leg of it, this process that we're doing right now, yes.
Now, can you kind of give me an understanding that I know that Abingmark is considered the city's engineering firm. Now, can you explain to me how, they write the grants, work the grants, determine who gets the bid, and then money is constantly flowed into them for different things on the jobs. Now, can you kind of let me have an understanding of that, because
Yes, ma'am. They are a full-service architectural and engineering firm. They function, let me correct that. Jason Marcotte, who's on their staff, functions as the engineer for the city for regular routine things that we don't get billed separately under a contract for. They also, being a full-service architectural and engineering firm, are able to bid on jobs and so forth that come in. Likewise, certain things, as you mentioned, that they might assist us in developing a grant for or whatever, some of those they don't bid on, but they may perform a service of monitoring the performance and that kind of thing on it. They do things for us as a part of that engineering role that we don't have staff to do internally for ourselves. But they're just like in the case of this particular grant. Now, they assisted in the development of the application to comply with the requirements that the state has. But they were not able to just be assigned the work. They had to compete for it. And they did so in response to a published request for qualification. They submitted a complete full packet, just as the other firm did. Both firms had experience in doing these kinds of projects and so forth. And when we went through the various factors, as Commissioner said, that were involved there, we wound up, in fact, four of us all unanimously decided their proposal was the best.
can you tell me if, the grant limits engineering expenses? I know they do for certain things, so can you tell me what this grant is allowing them to pull off of
Basically,
$1 billion?
yes. And it's allowing them within that amount that we're talking about to do an assessment of the facility, which that works to our advantage with them because they worked on that facility before and they know that facility. It's not new to them. But they'll do an assessment of what the needs are, develop specifications for what needs to be done in order to correct the problems that it has. They'll, after developing those specs, they'll actually publish them for bids, be here for the bid opening, record the results, just like they did on the lead line project. They'll record the results, compare them and make them available to us with a recommendation for who the bid should be awarded to. And that will be for each specific area items that we're trying to get fixed. For example, if it's windows, we may get specifications developed for windows that goes out. We may get 4 or 5 firms that meet the requirements that we put in there, and we look at their prices and whether they can perform it and get the best price that way. But that, and they'll go through that same kind of thing for whatever gets done. If it's dealing with the heating system to get it back up, yeah, the electrical system, if it has to be redone or parts of it reconnected. You know, a lot of damage was done in that building, and elevators out, uh, A lot of basic cleanup has got to be done. There's a lot of stuff that has to be
Now,
done.
that what happens when Whirlpool has to buy it, when we don't sell it to them. It goes down. So I'm glad that we got on board, but I still need to know if there's a limit to the engineering monies that coming out of this grant. Matter of fact, can you send us the award letter
I'll be very glad to do that.
to distinguish what it actually says?
I'll be very glad to do that. And while I'm mentioning sending things, I just sent out your Section 3 information this afternoon.
Oh, my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God.
Are there any more questions about this particular item? Well, I suggest that we move this one forward, City Clerk, to the full commission at our next meeting. Next item on our agenda is the MLK proclamation declaring MLK Unity Day in the city of Benton Harbor. Commissioner Isom, you have the floor.
How you doing, Honorable Chair and Co-Chair? Here we have today is Mac and Sharon Brown of the Unified Monument Project. I'm sure you're aware of that, what's going on in Pete Mitchell Park. And today, they're here to ask the city to make a proclamation declaring November 19th as MLK Unity Day in the city of Benton Harbor. And I'll let them present their vision.
Good evening, everyone. Y'all know I'm trying. It's good to be back. And I really would like to participate more every time I come here. It just kind of gets me going in terms of being a citizen and working in the city of Benton Harbor. And this is a huge, big part of all of that. And I know I miss out a lot by not coming here. At the same time, the busyness of the monuments, going on 4 years now, believe it or not. Plus even, I hate to keep counting because that means I'm older. And so, you know, it dawned on us, this wasn't something that was part of the thought process of having this day. And I get proclamations, and I guess you guys probably do that quite a bit throughout the years. But it came to us that this is like a pretty big deal. It's something that more than likely will happen once. And it's also an opportunity, as we've journeyed with this, it has really, truly brought quite a few people together that would have never been in the same room. And that includes myself too as well. I've had some experiences that I thought, you think you're diversified, you think you've cultured, but yet, until you visit a white church in St. Joe, and I didn't realize it was First Sunday, and had a white minister to actually give you your communion in public like that. It was really a big experience. But I was there because of the monuments. I only was there because of the monuments and because that particular church had been giving so much into the project that Mac and I decided that we should go and visit them and make our presence known and let them know we appreciate their giving. And just didn't realize it was First Sunday, and just walking up there, that was a big thing for me. Anywho, with that, unity has happened. Certainly the 19th, when this unveiling happens, it should be a day to remember, not just another calendar day, not for the Twin Cities anyway, and certainly really not for Benton Harbor in particular. You all know the story. You know that it was one monument. It was the heartbeat for Benton Harbor to help to bring hope and change to our cities. And in seeking
not seeking, I'll take that back. It was not seeking. It was accepting the work of others in St. Joe in particular. And when that work began to happen and the conversation began to happen, they truly said, this is pretty fantastic. And we really feel that our community could gain something from having representation of Martin as well. And just so if you guys haven't heard this bit, and I'm gonna stop, we did not say yes right away. We had to think about that. We had to go, and Pastor Atterbury in particular, and have counsel with the fact that there's 2 kings for 2 cities. And he said, did you ask them why? And with that, they responded, because we need 1, 2 for different reasons from Benton Harbor. And immediately I could see the different reasons, and I could see the need. And so that's really how it became 2 kings for 2 cities. We look out 2 different windows, 725 Broadway, and then when I go over to the Krasl Art Center, that the view from that window is different. And so we have sat at the table with our different views from where we look out of, and we didn't always agree. It really takes something to stick something out. It really takes adjusting, not necessarily giving in, but adjusting. And it also takes something that I've learned is that when something is put on the table that you feel is really, it's too far, whether you want to say left or right. I know we just got through that, but you have to say something. You know, if you can't find your balance in it, if you can't find, and you know you're a reasonable person, and somehow it's just not, it's not jiving with you, you have to say something. And I found myself saying something, and I had no idea that there was a wrong getting ready to happen. A wrong, if I had not said something. And so this birthing of these 2 monuments has really taken something, and it has taken people to stick with it for it to really happen. And why do you stick with it? Why do you stick with it? Why do you keep going back? Why do you, giving up your time, especially when there's no salary involved? You do it because of the people. The lives of the people have such a high value on them, regardless to what is going on that we don't like, things that we don't like. We don't want that for our cities, but that doesn't mean the lives are any less valuable. Each and every baby, boy and girl, man and woman, senior citizen is of high value. And anything that we can do to add to the quality of their life, I believe that's a big part of why we're here, is to add quality to each other's lives. And so November 19th should be a day when you say MLK Unity Day. It should be a time for us to search ourselves, not just as the Twin Cities, but I'm talking about even in your own home, whether it's your home or the schoolhouse. Is that, are we representing the spirit of MLK in the way we treat each other and how we speak, and where we spend our time and where we put our money? I found that out too. That if you say you want well for others, you put your money there. And so I hope that you all can see the value of what that's going to do for the two cities, and in particularly, I still hold a banner for Benton Harbor, to have that day always remembered, and that the story can be told over and over again on how it happened.
Yes. It goes without saying that each and every day that man exists, history is being made all over this entire earth. And sometimes the bulk of what really should be captured by history and historians goes unheralded. They slip through the historical cracks, what someone achieved, what they did, goes unnoticed. And the hoopla is captured and placed in our history books. Sometimes it's fluffed up and not necessarily founded on entire truth. There are over 35 twin city configurations in this country, and never before in the history of America's existence has anything like this ever taken place. It is a monumental historical achievement. Sharon and I, we do not seek any kind of recognition. It is, in fact, for the people, because this is our hometown, born and raised, bred. And when we came back here after leaving here for over 40 years, our heart was troubled by the fact that there was absolutely nothing in this community to reflect not only the population of the community, but simply to inspire young people and old that still exist and make this place their home. This historical event should by all means be remembered, not for us. I can fall into the background. I don't need to be recognized. Just being 6'6" gives me enough recognition that I can handle with. But there are people in this community, even now, this morning, they do not know that these monuments are going up. Why is that? Why is that? So having this proclamation will seal and cement what took place over a 4-year period. Hopefully, in the minds of some, a question will be raised. How did this happen? When did it happen? And that proclamation day could very well serve to be a reminder to those who, to this day, do not know. They can find out and learn about what actually took place to place these monuments in these two communities. We have a familial appellation tied to these two communities of twin cities. But from a justice point of view, it's time they started acting like family and not just two communities connected by a bridge.
Thank you, and I know that it's been a tumultuous, a trying,
Sorry to unload.
many years, and I can say many of my constituents really appreciate the work, the time, the blood, the sweat, the tears that have gone into your love for our community. I really appreciate it. Looking so forward to doing this, and this will go before our full commission, and will be presented at our next commission meeting for a vote. And I'm sure that it'll pass with flying colors, and we'll help make sure that everyone knows about this. And you should be recognized for the, this hard, one of a kind work of the heart, work that you guys have put blood, sweat, and tears in. And so you should be recognized for those things.
Thank you.
You guys, please keep us in your prayers. And y'all know that the MLK the 3rd is coming, right?
So I move that we move this to the full commission for our next meeting to be voted on. Is there any other questions or comments about this particular item? Commissioner?
I want to say God bless the two of them.
Thank you, Sister.
We got a little history.
Bless your
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
Yes, it is. Before they got back here to Benton Harbor, I got a chance to spend a couple of weeks with them.
A lot of folks don't know that, that you
Came
spent some
there,
time.
spent the-
Can you believe that?
Yes, but it was wonderful just knowing them.
That was, oh,
Wish them the best
okay.
in every way. Because truly, Dr. Martin Luther King deserves to be recognized, especially among the Benton Harbor being predominantly black. And knowing the history of what he was about. And for us to carry on and let us know, let his family and anyone else know he's not forgotten. Thank you, though.
You know, may I, Miss Emma came to see us years ago, y'all. For 2 weeks, she was with us in our home. And do you remember we went and saw the Freedom Riders?
Yes,
You know, and that's in California, that's in LA, right?
yes.
And yet, we should have something like that to enjoy here in our own city. We shouldn't have to go to California, right?
That's right.
To see the Freedom Riders. Yeah.
Mr. Duncan, you had your hand up.
Yes. I wanted to thank them as well for all the effort and energy that they put into their project. I think one day is not enough. I think we ought to take a month. Our black men are one way or the other. And he enlightened a lot of people to what was really going on. A lot of people tried to act like they didn't know or didn't care and all of that. But the man actually did care. And he deserved more than a damn statue, too. So, in remembrance of him, more than one day, and I'm going to ask before you shut this meeting down, Ms. Chair, if you could, you start the meeting 5 minutes after the time it's supposed to start. And this meeting, really, these meetings start whenever you want to. We went a half an hour waiting on somebody to come. But for you to have a meeting, and I'm just hoping it don't happen again. I'm not really on nobody's case about it. But 5 minutes after the time you open, you had this lady, I don't know her name, I want to know, and I like to know what she's running for and all of that. The process is kind of out of whack. So, I mean, if we're going to do it, if we can wait for half an hour for somebody, we can wait 5 minutes for citizens that you know are trying to get in out of the rain and trying to get in out of the cold, old folks. You can wait 5 minutes. That's really my point. And I want to thank the city manager for sticking and helping and doing. And I really like to thank you citizens, you commissioners, because you can come together with 9 when it's time to do something for somebody else. And I would love to see the day where you get 9 people who come together and do something for the citizens of Benton Harbor. Thanks for the time and the energy.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Duncan.
I normally try not to comment on a lot of things, but I also want to give thanks to you all for what you have done in putting this monument here. I have a prayer that goes with it, and that is that as my young people look at the statue and go by it, if 1 or 2 gets enough curiosity to go back and research and learn what it's all about and what it means, it will be continually doing good for us, because I was like 21 years old laying on the sidewalk in Jefferson Avenue and near Jefferson Bank when the police wagons were coming to pick us all up. Bill Clay, who was a representative at one point, was and senator later, was out there, got arrested along with all the rest of us. Was young enough that hey, I was still trying to figure it all out. But recently, I have observed so many of our younger people who respond to some of the things when they're talked about. Oh, that's old timey. That doesn't mean anything. That's not any. We're past that. Every other group in the world teaches, lest we forget, so that you don't repeat things that have happened, so you don't have to go back and have your children or your children's children experience the problems that your group went through earlier. But for some reason, we come up short in that regard. A lot of our kids don't relate to our past, and our past is not that long ago. It's not that long ago, and it can very easily happen again, very easily. But I mean, just as recent as a few weeks ago, I was in Henry's, and the young man was talking about voting and who he was going to vote for, and was very vociferous about, oh, nobody did anything for me. I got a check. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, doesn't he realize that probably the very job he has comes as a result of funding and so forth that's coming through the system right now? The streets that are getting fixed, the water lines that are getting repaired, all of this is the result of what's going on in the current administration. That's a heck of a lot, worth a lot more than one or two checks with somebody's name on it that wants to make you think they did something big for you, you know? We are missing the boat. Our young people have got to go back and read and understand what went on. And not 2 or 3 lifetimes ago, I lived through it. I lived through it.
Madam Chair,
I'm gonna let her talk about it and then.
So one of the things that Mr. Little had brought up, and it's a good point, we can't depend on the schools to teach our youth about our history. Good luck. So having this statue is a reminder to the community that we have to come together and make sure our youth know our history. We definitely can't depend on anybody else to teach them.
one last thing I had to say before I leave. We asked for a newsletter so our citizens could know everything what was going on. We did everything else but. I'm sure we did some things, but it's not enough. I'm gonna ask, while I got you guys here, would you guys help sponsor a newsletter, help the city manager or the commissioners come up with a newsletter for the citizens where our voices can be not only heard, but can get information, like vital information, like how Malcolm X and Martin Luther King got together and how they really got together at the end of his lifestyle, at the end of his life. We need to know things, but if we keep stepping on each other's legs, the kids won't ever know anything. If you guys will help talk to these guys.
I need to dismiss this meeting.
Because they don't really have the citizens here for real.
Clerk Moore, this meeting is adjourned, but I will let Mr. Duncan continue.
I thought that this was,
See, that's the kind of disrespect you get when you're just an old senior citizen. So you guys talk to the city manager. You guys talk to the commissioners. I know it's over and now I heard you say it was over, so I can keep on talking. Help us, help ourselves. That's what the newsletter was all about. And I still still, before you close, I still would like to know, like I asked, who is this lady and what was she running for?
So this is Ms. Shawanda Pettigrew. She will be joining the legislative committee at our next meeting for the following month. So she's a new citizens representative that'll be joining my committee,
Great.
starting next month.
And you did, down here, the reason I didn't ask my question, because you were speaking on these other issues. I needed to ask a question on, in public comment. And my question is, did Mr. Little ever address or get any, traction on this lady's, roof that she was saying had a gap in it? Because the heat will go out of her house with that gap that she has in her roof. Did you ever find and get that taken care of?
I did, and I sent to each one of you all commissioners, like the next day or so after that meeting, a 2.5-page listing of every step, every meeting, when we sent the contractors back out, what they did, when we sent our city inspector out, and what the final conclusion was on that. Just to summarize very briefly, the lady had a roof that did not have vents in the roof and so forth. The contractors, when they redid that roof, put vents in the roof. And the little openings that you're talking about on the side that